Hello, everyone. My name is Jayden Cummings, and I'm here for another episode of the Next Generation Podcast, episode 2, in fact. And in this episode, we'll be focused on youth leadership, and I have a very special guest, a leader of the NAACP Berkeley, Albany, and Emeryville Youth Council, Myles McGee. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
So thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime. We're just gonna have like a free-flowing conversation about youth leadership. We're probably gonna get into politics. Probably gonna get into what holds for both of us in the future. Going into college and our careers, etc. But my first question for you, Myles, is what characteristics are needed to become a successful youth leader?
Well, I definitely say patience. You got to be patient. Because there's sometimes things aren't going to get done the way you want them to. I can be kind of a control freak sometimes. So, I want things to be done a certain way, things to run a certain way. But, we all have things that we go through that we have to deal with that make it kind of hard for that to happen. And so you definitely have to be patient and just be vocal as well. You can't expect people to read your mind. You have to, if you want something done, you got to tell them what it is, and you can't tell them all the details you want. You can't just expect them to do it exactly the way you want them to, and they get mad and come down on them when they don't. So that's two characteristics I think are really important.
Yeah, I agree with you. Matter of fact, I feel like patience, along with motivation. If you have a motivation to do something, it makes it way easier to spend a lot of time doing it. So patience, along with motivation, and I feel like the ability to communicate with people professionally, and appropriately is also very important. And I'm sure those are all skills that you have, as a leader, as president of the NAACP Youth Council. So just tell me what that's like. Like, what is it like being the president of that organization?
It's great. I want to say that before I say anything else. It's great. I enjoy it. I love it, but it was definitely hard coming in at first. I think I hadn't been in the organization for as long as other people had. And when Ms. Bernadette, my advisor, when she came to me and told me she wanted me to be president, I was, it was kind of hard to say no, but at the same time I was, kind of hesitant, but they gave me a lot of support. And I got to shout out my secretary, Rachel. If it was not for Rachel, I don't know how I survived as president. She's been here a lot longer than me, so she was able to help me with a lot of things. And, it's great. I definitely enjoy it. I definitely love being a leader and hearing everything everybody has to say.
Got you. And for everyone who doesn't know, Rachel, she was on the episode 1 of this podcast, matter of fact, with George Hofstetter. And that's what we had our conversation about. We had a lot of conversation about politics and about, youth leadership and, very similar topics. She's an amazing person. But so what has been your recent successes of the NAACP? Like what have you guys been doing as an organization like recently?
Well, recently, with the pandemic, we've been on Zoom. And I think one huge goal for me has just been education. Trying to teach everybody about anything you can, like especially for Black History Month, we learned about a lot of things. They put together a nice presentation, but I tried to incorporate that. Every week, last meeting was about financial literacy. We talked a lot about that, and of course, the hate crimes going against Asian people. But education is a huge thing in summer. We can't. It's kind of hard to just go out there and do things like we usually do. That's one thing we've been trying to do now that things are winding down. We're trying to get more into it. We're making flyers, things like that, things you just want to put out, and things we can build on before I go and, Rachel goes and everybody else goes.
Got you. That's amazing. I feel like financial literacy is very important. I feel like that. I feel like financial literacy is should be a mandatory class in high school. I feel like that is something that it could be a very necessary elective that like I feel like a majority of the population believes that. Everyone could agree that it's important to know how to how important credit is, how to file your taxes, how to start and maintain a business. I feel like those are things that are very, very, very important that are not taught in school, that could even probably be mandatory if we're, under this system that we have today. I feel like those are skills that are necessary to succeed. But yeah, my next question is, during quarantine, how has quarantine and how has COVID impacted your organization? And as a leader, how did you react to it?
Well, obviously we can't have the meetings in person anymore. And can you hear me? Am I clear?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. We can't have the meetings in person anymore, and so that was a huge thing. Zoom, being on Zoom, trying to figure out how all this stuff works, and that was an issue for a while. But we just had to work through it. You have to do it. You can't just be like, well, we can't go in person anymore, so it is what it is. You have to do it. You have to try new things. We have to get on Google Meet. We can get on Google Meet. Like whatever we have to do, we have to all get on a group FaceTime. We could all get on a group FaceTime. And so it made things a little harder. But I got good people around me in the organization that made things a lot easier and really helped us out.
Got you. Yeah. So like when you first heard about COVID, like what was your first reaction? Where were you at when the shutdown first happened?
When the shutdown first happened, I actually had to take. I was gonna take a. So it was, let me think. It was I think it was March 13th, right? It was March 13th, and I'm a huge MMA fan, so there was a fight card in Brazil, and I just heard they're not having fans, and I find out because it's a COVID, and then that's when everything started to get shut down. Like earlier that week, the NBA had gotten shut down. The whole Rudy Gobert situation happened. Everything was just going crazy, and I remember like talking to my mom, and I was like, "Well, I got to take this SAT," and then I think I woken up that Saturday. I was supposed to take it, and I realized it wasn't happening. I was gonna go, and then that following week, that's when everything shut down. People were going crazy over toilet paper, and I just remember I thought it was a big deal from day one. Like I realized it was an issue. Like what was going on over in China, and I feel like because it was all the way over there, I didn't really have, other than knowing it's a serious virus, I wasn't too worried about it. But then when it got here, it started spreading really quick. I realized it was an issue and needs to be taken.
Yeah, I remember when my first when I really acknowledged it as like something that's crazy and that's gonna like shut everything down. I remember it was when I guess it was a cruise ship that was coming to the Bay Area. I don't know if you remember that, but it was a cruise ship that was coming to the Bay Area.
Yeah,
and some people on the cruise ship, they got COVID, and then they were all the people from the cruise ship, or like the people from the cruise ship, I had to like stay on there for longer, had to quarantine, had to be be transferred to army bases. It was just a lot of stuff going on. It's so crazy, and I feel like this is a point of our lives, like that is that we're always going to remember this. This is just like it's the craziest thing. We were in our junior year of high school, ready to take our SATs, and then all of a sudden everything just shuts down. Now, now in terms of how COVID has been handled by the U.S. government, by different states, by people on social media, by public figures, I feel like it's been a disaster, to be honest. Like, we've seen lots of things, like from public figures, spreading COVID denialism to just straight up the Trump administration just messing up, to different states like literally just not like enforcing any mask mandates, and just some states just never closed. They never had a lockdown. Like California, we're different. Some states just never really had that. So it's just it's crazy to see this. Like it's actually like insane to me that like something that has the potential and had the potential to kill millions of people, and it did, you know, that wasn't taken seriously, and that are like that the leadership as of now has been, you know, very, very terrible, to be honest. What do you think about that? About how the leadership has been?
I look at Florida and Texas when we talk about the type of states that just didn't care. You know, Florida and Texas in 2 states, they were just like, we're gonna do what we want to do, and it's kind of like we're alive and stock. And you know, obviously Donald Trump, as crazy as he is, he made this a political thing, and it became another thing that people were divided over. And then also his response was terrible. I mean, he's known about this for a while. He's known about this. He's had scientists here. He's seen this here telling him what this is for a long time. And this could have been, I mean, in my opinion, even though I think it might be really infectious, this could have been like the Ebola situation where maybe 1, 2, not that many people get it, and would have been gone in the U.S., but obviously it became the huge deal that it is now. And I look at Australia, and Australia handled the situation, and their leadership, and obviously in the corner of the world. But if we could follow some of those protocols in some states, I feel like a lot of people would have survived, and we just gotta handle this way better than we did.
Yeah, it was buffering a little bit for me. That, you know, most of what you were saying was buffering, but I heard a lot of stuff that, you know, it makes sense. Like I know you brought up Australia and, you know, other countries that you feel like, make sure that I'm right, like that you feel handled it well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree with you. Like there's been countries like Japan and like South Korea that shut down from the very beginning, and they saw like going down, like, you know, like going deeper into, you know, our time through COVID. They're doing well. They're doing really well. They have low cases, low deaths. They never experienced having 1/5 of the whole world's deaths like the United States had. And I feel like it makes sense for us to be very critical of that. And it feels like it's really weird because it feels like there's a whole portion of the country who doesn't want us to be critical with like the government. And I feel like being critical of the government is very important because it's a democracy, and so that the government is held accountable and that we could actually make change. And I understand that it's like a whole portion of the country that doesn't like that or doesn't want that at all. But, you know, I have strong disagreements with that. But going back up to the top, oh yeah,
I was just gonna say, there's some people that don't should be critical of the government at all, and that's crazy to just sit there and follow anything that the government does and not criticize them. You know, one thing that these people that usually that we're talking about, they always talk about free speech, and so to not criticize the government, to not say this isn't cool, like this is a huge issue, it would just be crazy to me. We gotta use our voices, you know, and yeah.
Got you. And now I kind of want to talk about like Black Lives Matter. Like that's something that, you know, the Derek Chauvin trial, you know, the 2 videos of 2 basically murders that I just saw, like, you know, the other day. I guess, like, what do you think about this? I mean, it's just, you know, it's crazy that it feels like it's never going to end, and it probably isn't ever going to end. Like, you know, you would think that when video, because this has been happening for like basically generations and decades, right? Police brutality. But you would think that video and that cell phones and that social media would expose it, and it is exposing it, but nothing's really getting done about it, kind of. Like this is Derek Chauvin cases like the first case that's actually went pretty well, like in terms of police, brutality. But yeah, what do you think about that? Like, what do you think? Do you think that the Chauvin case is a sign of progress, or like a sign of, just things that, things haven't changed? What do you think about that?
I mean, to be honest, I truly don't know. I know I could only watch that George Floyd video maybe once or twice. I've watched it once or twice, even now. And I think they saw what happened. They saw it happen when George Floyd died, and it, went all over social media, and we had the protests. We had all the things that we had. And I think that was, they had to convict him there. There's no way they couldn't.
They had to.
There's no way they couldn't convict him there. But we saw believe his name is Dante Wright, and it was also just a young girl that got killed by the police when she called them for help. And there's just so many cases, and so I want to see if there's change there. Like I said, we were just in class, and I said in class, I think policy and protocol are a huge thing. I'm big into martial arts, right? And a lot of these cops, it's like they're playing Revenge of the Nerds or something. Like they got bullied when they were kids, and now they just want to bully people. And they don't know anything. They're putting knees on necks. If you know basic jiu-jitsu, you don't need to put a knee on somebody's neck. Yeah. And it's just crazy that they don't learn these type of things. They don't learn these things. And one thing we hear a lot is they follow protocol. And that's the issue. We need to change the protocol to take that away. So that's not a cop out. That's not something that they could go to. So that in the court of law, we could be like, hey, he didn't follow protocol. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I feel like they should put George in general population with everybody else. The guys that are in there for sexual assault charges, they get beat up by prisoners just like a cop would. Yeah. But they don't get put in the PC. So why should we put him in there? So I think him being found guilty is definitely a step in the right direction, but we can't just take one case and be happy. We can't just see this happen once and be content with that.
So I want to go to the comments. William Conrad said, "We are effed as a nation. Half of the country won't take the vaccine, wear a mask, and support a fascist, racist, grifter, traitor clown." Like, I mean, I agree with that. Essentially, it's insane, but I feel like we have to like somehow try to reach, like we have to eventually reach half the country. Like it's going to be terrible to try to move forward. Like it just past them is because they're just so obstructionist that we just have to figure out a way to unite with them on some issues so we could get the common sense things out, and then we could work on probably reparations for Black people. Then we could work on, let's say, healthcare for all. But we have to get like the common sense gun laws down. Like if we can't agree on a stimulus bill, then we probably won't ever get a UBI or anything like that. It's just a lot of, we have to be, I feel like leftists and people far to the left and Democrats specifically, we have to be strategic, very strategic. And like a lot, and I feel like that's not really being shown, like especially with the people that we elect. Like, did you hear what Nancy Pelosi said about thank you, George Floyd, for your sacrifice? Like, that's not being smart. That's not being empathetic to the situation. It's just like, it's implying that death was necessary.
How tone deaf can you be?
And and then Maxine Waters, like she got controversy for saying that that making comments about the trial, saying, I'm pretty sure she said that I guess people have to rise up afterwards or something. It wasn't like anything encouraging a riot, but it was like too close to the line for a politician. So it's like the Democrats, I feel like, aren't being very smart or strategic. the Republicans are just the Republicans, but the Democrats just aren't. We need them to do better to cancel out the Republicans. Like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to ask you: do you think that there was political pressure? Because it's crazy to me that people think this, but do you think that there was political pressure by the jury to convict Derek Chauvin to like prevent any civil unrest? Do you think that is the case?
I think. Well, I'll just say this: if I was a juror, okay. Well, let me say this: regardless of any pressure or anything, if you look at the case, he should be convicted. So when I've heard this, like, you know, that there might have been some pressure on the jurors, even if there was, looking at the case, you should be convicted. So if there's
Exactly.
pressure, there's pressure on them to do the right thing.
Exactly.
So yeah.
So yeah,
And,
I agree with that. I think that like essentially like if you just look at the facts of the case, like it's the myth of George Floyd dying from meth is still out there. It's like, you know, but it's just that, a myth. Like if you watch the trial, like I have a 75-year-old or 76-year-old grandma who watched the trial from start to finish, like who watched the trial, and there's still super duper amounts of misinformation going around in conservative circles on social media that is just like is really, you know, taking away from the impact of this trial. And I just, you know, it's crazy to me, but you know, like it's it's just crazy to me.
yeah,
Um,
they sit in their little echo chambers and just kind of like repeat the same talking points back at each other.
yeah,
And one thing, as somebody, you know, that's on the, I would say I'm on the left, we can't do that. Even though I believe the facts are definitely on our side and in, you know, more ways than one, we can't do that. You know, we can't just immediately be biased towards things and immediately just, you know, excuse things because it's on our side. You know,
exactly,
I'll be the first person to, you know, tell you Joe Biden is tripping or somebody else isn't doing something right. You
exactly.
know, we have, or the Democratic Party. I didn't like what they did to Bernie, but we have to be honest, because this election shouldn't have been this close. There's a lot of stupid people in the U.S., but I feel like if there was a stronger Democratic Party, it
Oh,
wouldn't have been this close.
exactly. I just wish there was a stronger Democratic Party. And speaking about strategies, William Conrad, you know, I love talking about strategies that the the Democrats can take to go forward from this. He said, "You can never support, aid, or abet the fascist Republicans. They must be destroyed. We had to fight a world war to stop fascists. We cannot abide them in the U.S. at all." I agree with that, right? But the Republicans, like I feel like the Republicans, the Trump administration, they're smart enough to like for example, in the January 6th riots, um, Trump basically, you know, he incited the riot. It's obvious, everyone like you know with the brain can see that. But it was just like the way, like his words that he chose to use to incite it, like legally, it was very hard to convict them for it, you know, because they're sneaky enough and smart enough not to use though, like not to be avert enough with their racism and fascism to get convicted legally or to get any real sort of consequences or to face real consequences legally. But it's but it's still really bad what they're doing. What do you think about that, Myles? What do you think we should do as like? What do you think? What is your response to William Conrad on that point in the comments?
About that comment.
Yeah.
I mean, there's let me give me a second. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we kind of have to destroy them, but I think Trump knows his fan base, and you know, people in the Republican Party, they know their fan base, they know who they're talking to, and so it's going to be really hard to stop these people because I mean, what was the U.S. founded on? Manifest Destiny, you know, which is really white supremacy. So
Yep.
yeah, it's kind of hard to get these ideas out of here when it's the root of America. But I think when we continue to try and over time, I feel like it's something that's going to take time, but we just have to continue to try, and we're going to continue to make progress. But At the same time, we can't allow things to happen and allow things to be okay just because we know it's going to take time. We still got to stand up. We still got to fight. We still got to do whatever we got to do. If we got to cause another $1 billion in damage, we'll do that. And I thought a lot of the riots, a lot of the quote unquote riots were perpetuated by like right wing agitators, like Max Kellerman said. Like you see a lot of people, in these masks and these white. You see this skin. These white guys. They're cracking windows, setting stuff on fire, leaving bricks on the street. In Oakland they did that, and so it's like they wanted this to criticize us, and there's a lot of terrible things going on in our country, but I feel like all we can do is continue to create legislation, continue to educate people. Because dumb people are going to stay dumb. There's nothing you can do. At the end of the day, racism, and I said this before, I think racism is like a mental illness. Like it just stops you from being able to look at a different race the same. It stops you from being able to, you ignore facts and kind of rambling. It's like a little bit different, but like you even look at the right and like people like Ben Shapiro, right? Ben Shapiro isn't stupid. He's not. He knows what a logical fallacy is. He knows what it is, and yet he constantly uses it.
Exactly.
And like he's pandering to his audience, and so he's not stupid. He knows what he's doing. Same thing with Candace Owens. She knows what she's doing. They know what they're doing. So you gotta side of people that are just. I mean, they're in a way it's kind of like a troll. It's kind of like Ben and these other guys. These reactionaries are trolling them, and they don't realize it. And so it's really sad.
It is, but let's try to like get optimistic with it. Do you have hope and do you have faith in this next generation, our generation, the generation that's coming up? Do you have faith? Like what?
Oh yes.
Yeah,
definitely.
I feel like
definitely.
I feel like when our generation gets into power, like I feel like Gen Zs and millennials specifically, like millennials had to deal with so many crises in their lifetime. Gen Z,
yeah.
Like eventually, like I feel like Gen Z is seeing very little wealth compared to their predecessors, compared to Gen Xers and baby boomers. Like millennials and Gen Z, we're seeing less wealth, but eventually, like just due to natural causes, we're going to inherit these wealth, like this wealth. We're going to inherit this power, this wealth, and we're going to be we're going to have the power. And I feel like it is important for us to have these principles now, young, hungry, to have these principles now and to keep these principles in 10 or 20 years when we inherit, like all this wealth and power. Like that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're gonna have kids. We're gonna create another generation. There's already like little kids that know about politics. When I go see my little cousins this summer, I'm gonna teach them about some stuff. Like I just want this next generation to be as educated as possible. I want us to all do as much as we can to change what we can.
Yeah, yeah, and and to our audience, I really encourage you guys. I want this to go viral. I want this to reach all corners of the internet. I want you guys to share this video as much as possible. I want you guys to like. I want you guys to comment, contribute to the conversation, etc. Because I love this. I love talking about politics. I love talking with fantastic youth like Myles, Rachel, George Hofstetter, etc. And and it's if you want to support the show even more, you can contribute to my Cash App, and I'll put that money back into advertisement for the show. It's Cash App $JCRNS. And also going back to the conversation, I feel like that education, like specifically, is huge. Like it is like the founding. It's like it is the thing that I feel like our generation has to put the most effort in, making sure the curriculum's on point, making sure the funding for different schools are on point, and making sure that schools are different in every sorts of different type of community, regardless of wealth in that community, regardless of demographic of that community, that those schools still get like the best education possible. I feel like that is very important. Like going forward, I feel like we have to like that's going to be the number one thing. And I feel like you as the leader, the youth council for the NAACP, like you're going to have to reach out to different schools. You're going to have to reach out to educational leaders, network, and I feel like that's is going to be a huge part of our strategies going forward.
Yeah, I mean, education is paramount. I hope I use that right. It's paramount. You have to, my mom. That's something that's really important to her is education, and I understand why. Because I understand, where a lot of where my mom comes from. We're from Flint, Michigan. Where a lot of people, in Flint, are struggling right now, and a lot. Also, I do want to say this. I feel like a lot of it is, from systemic racism. Like a lot of the issues with our schools, like you look at some of our schools don't have funding. We don't have teachers that really care. We don't have, there's kids that, in some, like there's an article about some kids in Baltimore. None of the kids are even close to reading level, because, schools in our types of neighborhoods are underfunded. And so a lot of that comes from systemic racism, redlining, all that type of stuff. And so I feel while we have to stress how much education is important and try to push as many people in that direction as we can, we do have to understand that because of systemic racism, that because of things like this, there's gangs and there's people that it's hard to go to school when you can't eat. It's hard, there's no food at the house. It's hard to go to school when your mom, dad's never home. You don't have any support. It's hard to go to school when you don't have a ride to school. It's hard to go to school when your teachers don't care. They don't care to keep you interested. They don't care if you're there or not. They're collecting a check. It's and they're not even paid enough to really care. It's a system, and while we all need to do our job and try our best to make the best choices we can, we also do need to acknowledge that some people they really don't have good options. They don't have good choices. They don't have good opportunities, and they don't have people in their ear telling them, "Hey, you can do this. You can be this type of person." So we have to realize that. And I want to try to be, hopefully, wherever I end up in life, I want to be one of those people where I can create opportunities. I want to show kids, you can go here, you can do this. You don't need to be a rapper or a basketball player. You can be an esports player if you want to. You can be a chef. Anything you want to do. So, but at the same time, those opportunities need to be there. So
So I do want to go to the comments. The one that's popped up on the screen from Haley. She said, "Great discussion. Education is absolutely the issue. How do we get more of our generation to consider teaching? We need to diversify our teacher workforce to change our schools." Thoughts? Okay. So here's what I think about that. Like I have conversations with my mom a lot about diversifying the police force. Like a lot of people are ACAB, all cops are bad. I'm not necessarily that. I feel like diversifying the police force is very important, and of course, same thing applies to education. Diversifying, education and having different colored teachers is very important. And I feel like a strategic way of doing that is to value our teachers more in society. So apparently, overseas in different countries, they consider like being a teacher is at the same status of being a doctor. Like it's like that, And I feel like we need to value teachers more in this society. They're essential workers. We need them. Like it's kind of crazy, that like it's like a whatever job or not even a whatever job, or like because like a lot of people look at it as a whatever job, and I feel like we can't do that, and we need to strategically encourage college students to pursue teaching, encourage them to give back, to encourage them to become teachers in their own communities. I feel like is very great, and also I feel like it's also important to establish for young kids that teaching and learning is cool. It is nothing's wrong with that. It is actually like really important in that we like going forward, like it can like learning and teaching will benefit you as a person. Like I feel like some schools and my educational experience, like specifically, like I didn't really see that a lot. Like it wasn't like, oh, teaching and learning is very, very cool and all this. It wasn't as important. I feel like we need to value that as much as possible in our society. What do you think about that?
Well, first I want to say, ACAB, it has a way different meaning to me. And I'm sorry, Mom, because you're probably watching, but it means to me all cops are bastardized. And what that basically means is it's not the cops, it's the system. Because I truly believe there are good cops, but when I say that, that's kind of oxymoron because it's hard to be good when you perpetuate a terrible system. I do believe there's cops that got in there to really help their community and clean up their community, but we in a certain system you're in, it's hard to do that. And yeah, that's what it means to me. I just want to say that. But to answer the question, I think we do need to value our teachers way more. For me, looking for a job, looking for what I wanted to study in college, money definitely was an issue. I'm not gonna make it seem like we're struggling over here because we're not. But that's one thing a lot of kids look for. Like I want to be able to take care of my mother. I want to be able to take care of my family. So I want to be in a job where I have that type of opportunities. And as a teacher, you just don't. You don't have that opportunity. You really don't. Teachers are expendable in the system's eyes, not to me. And you could just get them out of there. We had a teacher our sophomore year, just kicked her out, gone. We didn't have a teacher for the rest of the year.
Exactly.
And so we need to value our teachers way more. And like you said, it should be like a doctor. Like you're teaching the youth. Like the youth is the future. The youth is the future. Teachers are right here. They need to be up here. And yeah, we just need to value our teachers way more. And I feel like definitely we would get more people that look like us to be teachers if that was true. Because I know a lot of people, they love kids. They want to help. But they don't want $30K a year.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly,
I feel like that's an issue.
Yeah. They don't want 40K on your average, or in the Bay Area, 60K, 80K. We need to give them more. I feel like it's crazy, but yeah. So there's a link in the comments actually, that's actually like for the Biden administration, which is calling for the Biden administration to prioritize having teachers of color and start to diversify the teacher union. Like the teacher population actually. And I feel like that's, really important. And for everybody who's interested and passionate about diversifying the teacher population, you can click the link in the comments. And besides that, yeah, well, what's next for you? What's next for you, Myles? I want you to tell everybody what you're doing next year, what you're doing after that, what you want a career in, and etc.
Well, yeah, so I currently live in California, but I'm from Flint, Michigan. I was raised there until I was 12, and then I moved to Hayward, then to Emeryville. And I've been wanting to go back for a while. And I love it there. I love my family. All my family's close. I got my family in Atlanta. I love them. I love to be a little 8-hour drive away from them. I got family in North Carolina, and it's just all over East. I only got a little bit of family over here, like in Texas. So, that's one place I wanted to be in. So when I was looking for colleges, I wanted to go to Michigan State. And, UC Berkeley, those schools were on those lists. And if they accepted me, that would definitely, I'd have to look at it. I had to give it some consideration. But, the second I got accepted into Michigan State, I was excited. I was happy. And I'm going to be in East Lansing, going to Michigan State this fall. And I can't wait. I'm going to be studying computer science.
Oh,
computer science.
Computer science,
yeah. Dope. Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't want to be an Elon Musk or a Steve Jobs. I want to be a Myles McGee. I want to create a lot of things without, and I want to try to do it. And I feel like we're in a capitalist society, and so a lot of people can exploit their way to the top. I want to really even if it means I gain less money, I want to hurt nobody on my way to the top of the industry. And maybe my mom always says she wants me to work for the FBI one day, but as cybersecurity. But yeah, I just want to gain a lot of capital, a lot of money, but put that money into communities, put that money into other people and help them. And yeah, I just want to help a lot. I want to do as much as I can. You only get one life, and I want to live it to the fullest. So
Got you. Well, that's beautiful, man. Well, they're going forward. You know, we need more people like you. We need more people with values who don't want to see exploitation in this world. Who want to move to the top. You know, aggressively, but like you know, without harm. I feel like that's very important. Um, yo, F the FBI. That's funny. But yeah, like I appreciate you. I appreciate for having you on. Like it's been great. I want to have you on in the future, actually. But
Hey,
thanks, Myles.
yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody. Oh, and thank you, William. This was great to be on here.
And don't be afraid to put any socials you want to promote or anything, any projects you're doing right now or anything.
Oh, well, yeah, my Twitter, I believe is somewhere here. Is Myles. Yeah, there it is. Myles _ McGee 2003. I don't really care about followers, but if you do want to follow me, see what I'm doing, uh, I'm on there. So.
Actually, we'll wrap it up there. Well.